July the 3rd, and Yugoslav federal tanks were heading north towards the rebel republics of Croatia and Slovenia, which had just accepted an unconditional ceasefire after almost a week of clashes with federal troops. The order for this latest show of force was said to have come not from the politicians, but from Belgrade's military command, controlled by hardline Serbs. Serbia is the largest of Yugoslavia's 6 republics, and the country's top military commander, General Blagoje Adic, a Serb, was claimed to have taken the decision on his own. This was interpreted as a prelude to a military takeover. The previous day, the federal war machine had demonstrated its full might in Slovenia. It was the first air raid on a European region since World War II. And war seemed to have begun again in Yugoslavia in the wake of unilateral independence declarations in Zagreb and Ljubljana. The new federal president, Stipe Mesic, seemed powerless. Mesic, a Croat, was elected on July the 1st. He should have been appointed in May, but hardline republics, notably Serbia, had blocked him. In return, Croatia and Slovenia had refused to attend sessions of the ruling Presidential Council. For 2 months, Yugoslavia was leaderless. And it may have remained so if the European community had not threatened an economic blockade unless the democratic process was restored. Mr. Mesic's first move was to announce 2 vital concessions. Croatia and Slovenia would suspend their independence declarations, while federal troops were ordered back to barracks. EC ministers hoped the latest proposal would prevent an all-out civil war.
And although we feel that there is reason for satisfaction that that point has been settled, we are fully aware that it is only a first step on the road to more durable solutions.
But in Belgrade, Yugoslavia's army chief, General Adic, seemed intent on proving the politicians did not have full control over the military. Speaking to parents of conscripts in the federal force, General Adic said the army would keep the peace and defend Yugoslavia against its enemies both inside and outside the country. There were angry exchanges in Belgrade as parliamentarians denounced the crackdown in Slovenia, and families of young conscripts expressed anxiety and distress over the escalation of the crisis. For some, the grief was too much. The Croatian president, Franjo Tudjman, cheered by supporters as the republic becomes a sovereign state on June the 25th. It was not born overnight, but resulted from a referendum in which Croats had voted for independence. However, Croatia has a large Serbian minority, and dormant ethnic tensions resurfaced. Yet the federal high command opted to intervene in Slovenia, not Croatia. Perhaps General Adic believed the army could rely on Croatia's Serbs to back a federal intervention at a later date. Whatever their reasons, Belgrade's generals chose to strike at Slovenia first. Federal troops were dispatched as Slovene units sought to secure posts along the republic's external borders with Austria, Italy, and Hungary. Slovenia is the only Yugoslav republic which borders on western states, and Belgrade may have wished to seal off Slovenia from the rest of Europe. They had underestimated the strength and resolve of the breakaway republic. Sovereignty was declared in Slovenia on the same day as in Croatia, 6 months after a referendum had shown massive support for independence, and more than a year after free elections in which non-communists had won on a strongly pro-independence ticket. It was to the sound of the European anthem that Slovenia's president, Milan Kučan, reviewed the guard, although Europe had yet to recognize the legitimacy of the 2 self-proclaimed states. Yugoslavia's federal army was put on high alert. Troops were dispatched with orders to prevent the disintegration of the federation and retake border points captured by the Slovenes. The tanks had to cross Croatia to reach Slovenia. En route, they sealed off the Croatian town of Glina, where scores of people had been injured in clashes. Internal tensions were mounting between the large Serbian minority and Croats. In Zagreb itself, pro-independence demonstrators attacked the offices of a political party which supported a united Yugoslavia. In Slovenia, local militia were already controlling the new republic's frontiers. Belgrade declared the move illegal, but Slovenian police said they were prepared to fight for the new national integrity.
if we must.
You will fight?
Yes.
When Yugoslav tanks first smashed their way into Slovenia on June the 27th, barricades erected by the Slovenes to protect the capital, Ljubljana, were simply crushed or brushed aside. As tanks ploughed through cars, these amateur pictures recorded the Slovenes' determination to fight on and slow down the army's progress. The Yugoslav military command had warned that all resistance would be broken. They claimed their intervention was aimed at restoring unity within Yugoslavia. The Slovenes thought otherwise. For them, this was an act of aggression by an army of occupation. Tank commanders were heading for Slovenia's northern border with Austria. Their objective? To recapture crossing points taken over by the nationalists. But they were bogged down by Slovene resistance in Ljubljana. Without a decisive victory, the generals opted to mark time and accept a European Community peace initiative. If army chiefs had banked on might and speed for success, they had failed. Federal units now found themselves surrounded by hostile forces on hostile territory. For tourists, Slovenia had suddenly become a war zone. Foreign visitors hoping for relaxation in the warm summer sunshine had to flee for their lives. And as civilian activity threatened to grind to a standstill in the beleaguered republic, holidaymakers had no option but to leave a once hospitable country. Their Slovene hosts, meanwhile, braced themselves for another possible onslaught. In Belgrade, relatives of federal conscripts turned on the hardline leadership after the air raids which had shattered the European Community's ceasefire initiative. On July the 3rd, parents of young men sent to fight in Slovenia gathered in the Serbian parliament to demand their return. Their anger was directed as much against the federal government as against the Serbian leadership, which they said was using their sons as fodder. Serbian Prime Minister Dragutin Zelenovic tried to talk to the parents. They shouted him down. Inexperienced federal conscripts in the wake of the air raids over Ljubljana, sent north towards Croatia and Slovenia by the military high command, and now awaiting further developments. They're not eager to fight a civil war, and they're not afraid to admit it.
Nobody wants to fight. Ask, everybody ask him. Nobody wants to fight.
As the latest ceasefire appears to be holding, albeit precariously, one crucial question remains. Who controls the army? The stability of Yugoslavia may rest on the answer.